Maui Jim sunglasses were born on the beaches of Hawaii, designed to respond to the bright sun and harsh glare of the islands, all while enhancing the view. After 30 years, we're still independently owned, and the free-thinking Hawaiian spirit that first inspired us is still a part of everything we do. Our Polarized Plus 2 lenses not only protect eyes from harmful rays, they also make colors more vivid and contrast crisper. Try on a pair and see for yourself. The view's better from here.
Let us make this absolutely clear. The days of wasted casts and missed opportunities are over. New Mega Imaging takes fishing into the megahertz range for the first time, because higher frequency sonar means higher frequency of this. Without a doubt, it's the most detailed picture of the world below ever. And it's only from Humminbird.
So here we are, welcome to ABT Live number 28. Yep, 28 episodes since we were locked down for the first time and decided we needed a show to communicate with you guys that are also locked down. But hey, we're not locked down anymore. It looks like we're probably not going to be locked down again unless COVID goes crazy and becomes deadly or something like that. So we've had a busy time of it so far in 2022. I know the ABT team, we've been down in Victoria, we've been to New South Wales, Hunter Valley, been to Tasmania, done bream and bass events all over the joint, and we've got a great program of bass, bream and barra events coming up for the rest of the year. If you're an ABT member and you haven't been getting your newsletters, get in touch with us. Nicole puts together the email newsletter every month or two. It's usually got the digital fishing monthly magazine subscription link in it, some of the links to the events coming up, and then some of the reports, videos, all of the coverage of the events that we've just had. So we've been in Tassie for a while. Joey Urquhart ran the New South Wales events for us. We've had a lot of events in the past few weeks, and we've got a lot coming up. For instance, this weekend coming up, we have the Clarence event, and we've got a little bit of coverage in here. The first guest we're going to join tonight is Tony Thorley, the unofficial mayor of Grafton, telling us just how the river's setting up, just logistically how it's all going to work. At the moment, it is all systems go, and we even have plan Bs for if stuff doesn't happen on time. Then, of course, we go to WA. We haven't been to WA for several years, but we have a double header over there. Two events sort of close to Perth. One of them is Mandurah. It's around an hour's drive south of Perth, a great varied arena. And then we've got an event in Perth itself, and I reckon it's been over a decade since we've run an event in Perth itself. We catch up with Alex Griesdorf, who's one of the West Australia tournament organisers and one of the gun anglers over there, to get a bit of a preview of both arenas and what we can expect on that swing of the Daiwa Brim Series. Thirdly, tonight, and I don't think I need to introduce him because everyone followed him during the week, we have a great big, long, detailed interview with Australia's own Carl Jocumsen. We all saw him throwing those glide baits around, whacking big ones, dumping big ones, getting more coverage than anyone else, and doing what he absolutely loves. So we catch up with Carl as a third segment tonight to get the in-depth look. We look at his tackle, we get the inside story of what's happening, and he's got a bit of a spot of news for what's happening later in the year. So make sure you stay around for that. And then we look back a little bit at the events that we've just done. You know, what would a show be without Matthew Langford? We've got him coming on board. He's won 3 out of 4 bass events and is on fire. But surprisingly, and we'll see this in the AOY stats soon, still mightn't win AOY if he shanks the last couple of events. So there's a couple of guys right up his tail. And last but not least, we have Zane Wyatt. We met Zane down in Tasmania. He did his first Tasmania tour last time we were there, did both events, 4 sessions, didn't catch a limit. He's from CJ Marine in Launceston. He's a Mercury dealer, and boy, the karma gods shined on him this year. He helped everyone fix their boats that had dramas, and 3 of the 4 days he caught near 5 kilo limits. And caught limits 3 of the 4 days, came second in the tournament. We have a chat to the legend from Lonnie, Zane Wyatt. We've got a bit of news coming up, but before I run through the news, let's go through the competitions tonight. We always have competitions. We are streaming this live on Facebook and YouTube. We have identical prizes for both of those. So enter by telling us where you're from. We just want to know where everyone's from, where they're watching from. And this is what's going to be in the prize pack. We've got 2 of the Zerek, the big dongs, the big flat shads. We've got 2 of them in each of the packs. We have some BARRA size Wilson FC leader, the fluorocarbon Wilson, which came up really good in our Fishing Monthly tests that we did. We have our Samaki boom bait jig head and tails included in that pack. We've got a sneaky little Daiwa double clutch that the BARRA guys are going to love. And then we drop down to the Brim guys. We have 6 packs of the bait junkies, including some risky critters in there. So it's not the old ones, it's the new ones, and there's some great plastics there. So I've got that duplicated. We're going to be running that on Facebook and YouTube. Just in the comments section down below, just let us know where you're from, and Nicole will pick a winner from one and then from the other. Now, a little bit of a secret. We are not running this show live. It's hard to get everyone together at Easter time with everything going all over the place. This is a pre-recorded show, but we are going to be drawing that winner at the end of the night. We're both going to be active in the comments section. We'll pick the winner. We'll put the winner down there in comments, and we'll follow them up. So it doesn't matter if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. You got a chance to win some of that great ABT sponsor gear. Bit of housekeeping. You may have seen on ABT's social media page during the week that as of today, I think it is, in Queensland, you don't need to be vaccinated to go to government buildings, and basically nearly everywhere anymore you don't need to be vaccinated to go in. So that was the appropriate time for ABT to drop that vaccine requirement in certain states, i.e. Queensland and New South Wales. Note that if you're in WA, you're going to need to be triple vaccinated to go to WA, and with the restrictions still in place there at a higher level on East Coast, you're going to need to be vaccinated to do those WA events. But assuming that the trajectory of COVID still heads downwards, I assume that all of those vaccine mandates will be gone soon. So we expected it to happen. The time was there for it to happen, and now the time is there for it to get rid of them. So we've got a new ABT member tackle store in Grafton. Dan and Mark from Grafton Firearms and Fishing have come on board. We're doing the briefing there this Friday night. They're going to have a sausage sizzle on there. They're going to be raising some money for the flood victims around them. So make sure you bring a few bucks in your pocket. They've got a great range of fishing tackle there. They're going to put a sausage sizzle on, going to do some fundraising, going to do the briefing there, and you're going to be able to, if you haven't been there, and I haven't been there yet, check out a new tackle store, one of my favourite things to do. So they will be there in the afternoon, and we're looking forward to welcoming them on board. Remember also, if you haven't booked accommodation for Grafton yet, the Abbey Motel in town, I think, shuts the whole motel down just for ABT competitors. Around Australia, we have several places that just lock the doors once ABT gets in and just fills it with people that are going to get up stupid o'clock in the morning and make plenty of noise. So thanks to those guys for looking after the ABT guys as well. One of the people that we are going to talk to tonight, Tony Thorley, he'll take us through an update of where we're at with it. But just be prepared to be a little bit flexible for Grafton. It's an app-based event. We don't have to have a weigh-in by the side of the river. So even if the park's not cleaned up, we still have a contingency plan for how we can do the check-in, the after-session interviews and the presentations, etc. for that Grafton event. So that'll all become apparent at the briefing. It's all systems go. Come along and keep an ear out for our updates. Next update, Angler of the Year. We are 4 events in now for both the Brim and the Bass series. Of course, we haven't started the BARRA series yet. In the Bass side of things, with 3 out of 4 wins, of course, Matthew Langford's leading. But hey, surprisingly, it's not a fait accompli he's going to win Angler of the Year. Mitchell Cohn's only 3 points back, and Jono's only 6 points back. So if Matt can't improve that 8th place that he's got on his cards there, and those guys have a good event, he can be caught. And Matt's well aware of this. He'll talk about that later in the show tonight. In the non-boater side, with 375 out of 400 points, we have Tony Neal. A couple of consistent finishes there for Tony keeps him up there. He's always strong on the back of the boat there. On the brim side of things, with 387 out of 400 points, Dave Shanahan showed that he can fish in the back of a boat as well as smash them in the kayaks, giving Stewie Walker a bit of a run for his money this year. And although we have got through 5 events left in the Brim Tour, it'll be interesting to see how that race shakes out. And we have had 18 anglers do all 4 Brim events in the Salt, and I'm actually leading those guys with 367 out of 400 points. So there is no one who's actually done a Matt Langford and actually smashed it all the way through. That Brim Angler of the Year boater title is well and truly up for grabs with 5 events left to go. So we know who we're talking to. Let's get straight in it. Let's go to Tony Thorley first, who is the unofficial Mayor of Grafton. Okay, now in ABT's history, we've had a lot of people that have known what's going on in their town. Let's go back to the early days of St Clair. We had Dave McLean. He was the Mayor of St Clair, used to write for Fishing Monthly magazine. If you want to know anything about Singleton and what was going around there, you go see Dave McLean. When we go to Albany in Western Australia, we talk to a guy called Kim McIntyre. We've had him on ABT Live before. He's the Mayor of Albany, we call him. And I have only just newly christened Tony Thorley, who's with us now. He is the unofficial Mayor of Grafton, because anything we want to do in Grafton, Tony knows how, when, and where to do it. Tony, welcome to ABT Live.
Thanks, mate.
Tell everyone, you're a long-time ABT competitor. You've been doing it for a while. But tell us what your day job is down in Grafton.
Plan operator with the local council, mate. Been there about 30 years now.
And interestingly, before the tournament last year was after some floods. Tell us what your job was, one of your jobs was, before the tournament was there last year involving the park down there. Tell us what you do with all that mud.
We got quite a few loads of mud off there trying to get it open in time so we could have the tournament last year, and we've actually got the contractors there this week trying to get it all nice and tidy for next week.
It's an interesting story because all of that, the flood mud gets used as topsoil for the council, doesn't it?
Yeah, we just don't dump it. We stockpile it, and it's very handy when we do roadworks or we got to do any work on front lawns, and that's the best topsoil you'll get.
Yeah, that's right. It's floodplain clearance topsoil. So not only is Tony, he knows what to do with the rod in his hand, he also does a lot of behind the scenes work to make sure that ABT events run smoothly. So, we saw the park last year. It looked a bit devastated. It looked like a bushfire flood and everything had been through it. But, hey, it was a condition where we can get it done. And you and I have been talking already for this event. The flood's gone through again. It seems like from the water gauge I've been looking at on the internet, the water's receding now. And you're in full swing trying to get a plan so we can run an event down there in a couple of weeks.
Yeah. We've had just as much material dumped on it. We sort of had 3 rises this flood event. We've had just as much material dumped down there. The guys we've got a couple of contractors down there scraping it all up, trying to get it nice and tidy. The saving grace is with being an app base this time, we won't, as you said there, we won't be setting up a stage there, so we'll be less imprint on the surrounds of the park. So we just had the briefing there. We'll run through it all, how we want people to park, so we don't make any more damage.
That's it. And I'll tell you what, if you're watching ABT Live, getting permission to use these parks, especially when they're a little bit compromised like this, with council normally is difficult. Guys like Tony in there being able to sort of help coordinate operations behind the scenes is invaluable for us. And when Nicole deals with council, if we've got someone like Tony in there that says, nah, these guys will do what you say, we'll get it all sorted out, we're not going to damage it. It makes it happen, because if it gets too hard, the temptation is to cancel it. And what I want to talk about next is how good the Clarence fishes after the floods. How good was it last year when we were sort of thinking, should we cancel it or not? We ran it, and man, there was some big bass come in.
Yeah, if you remember right, I think we talked about 5-6 days before it, Steve, and I suggested a weight, and we missed out by 10 grams on that weight.
That's right. You said you're going to get a 7-kilo bag for 4 fish.
Yeah, there was going to be a 7-kilo bag come in, and we were 10 grams off it.
Well, I'll give the mayor a little bit of leeway there, because your estimate was pretty close. Wasn't spot
Yeah.
on, but I want you to do the same for this year now. What do you think the biggest bag we're going to see this year is? Like, it's not a year after there's been no floods. Like, we've had a big flood through
Yeah.
last year. Is it the same effect?
Mate, what I seen the other day and all the whispers I'm getting, if we don't see what I suggested last year and probably better on one of the days, I'll be very surprised.
There you go. Hey, we've all seen on social media, shout out to Cameron Hall, who posted that pic of that 2.5 kilo. I think it was about 50, 51 to the fork bass.
Yeah.
Man, they look like they're in good nick.
Oh, mate, they're full. Like it's a shame we won't have the scales there because it'd be interesting to compare them, the weight against the length, because it'll just blow that theory out of the water. But yeah, the few guys I know that have been fishing and seeing cameras, photos, and a couple of other guys that I've got links to here, yeah, they've been getting some good fish the last 2 weeks. But it's just been hard, unless you know a sneaky little ramp. Yeah, we didn't open the ones in Grafton because that wasn't safe.
Yeah. Just for your information, we have done the exercise on Cameron's fish, a 51 centimetre fork length fish. He weighed it at about 2.4 something. I think you get about 2.6 kilos for it on the app. So, you know, even though it's big and fat, the app, the numbers, if you're worried about how accurate it is, it's going to be pretty close, actually, the numbers.
Yeah,
and I suppose the advantage is this year it's everyone fishing for their own fish. If we have unequal numbers, we don't have to worry about that shared weight because we don't have a permit in the rivers to keep any more than 2 fish a person. So because we do it on the app, we get to run a five fish limit. So I want you to upgrade your estimate now. It was 7 kilos for 4 fish. What's it going to be for 5 fish?
I reckon we'll see 7 3/4 easy enough for 5.
Rightio, that sounds good to me. And remember the app, I suppose, it rates them as if they're a nice fat fish. You know, sometimes
which they will be at the moment.
They can get a bit skinny, can't they? But at the moment, they're not skinny.
Yeah, well, they're that full of worms and that at the moment, like eating all the old garden worms that have come out of all the drains and that. And the few fish that I've seen, they're footballs. They're like they've come out of Somerset and full of bony brim.
It's also interesting. I saw a bit of social media message from Bo Everly the other day too. He's one of these people that loves it when it floods, and normally the day after the river floods, he sends me a video or a photo saying, "Check out what I caught," and he'll catch them in drains beside the road, and it's the fish are always like they see that flood opportunity as an opportunity to feed. You just need to get the river to drop to a level where we can access it from a boat. How's the river looking at the moment, level wise?
Level wise, we should be by the time the comp's on, we will be back to tidal. Well and truly at Grafton. So the guys that want to run upstream will get there with no drama. I know of one bloke that's already had a look at the Devil's Crossing up there, Deadman's Crossing up there at Eatonsville. He said it's got a good scour out, so the guys that are going to want to run up there will be up there looking on the pre-fish. But yeah, no, Steve, I reckon it's as good as it was last year.
And it was a cracker last year.
Yeah, well, the thing was there last year when we had the pre-fish weekend, which was 3 weeks after the flood, we had an absolute blinder. We caught a heap of fish everywhere, sort of thing, and that's why I said to you we will get cracking bags. But come the comp day, where I caught them, they'd moved, they'd resettled. So anyway, that's part and parcel of the game of being too reliant and not having a backup plan.
Well, but you know what? What it also says to me is that your pre-fish sort of doesn't even count. So if you didn't get to go down and pre-fish, the best information you're going to get is happening on that practice day because those fish can live a lot in a couple of weeks when the water's moving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I only know of, like, Cameron and Anthony Duff, and there was a couple of other blokes I know on the water, and I had a little bit of a sneaky run downstream there, and but there's plenty of fish there. Like, the guys they're all doom and gloom last year, but the guys that showed up had a ball. So,
it's going to be good. And one of the things that's news from this year, I don't know if the mayor knows about this or not. He probably don't because the deal only happened a little while ago. Is that we're going to do the briefing at Grafton Firearms and Tackle. So Dan and the guys there, they've jumped on board as an ABT member tackle store.
Oh,
Going to do
okay.
moving
Yep.
out there in the afternoon. I think there's plenty of parking there, and it's a tackle store that I haven't been to, so I'm always keen to get in and have a look at a new tackle store. And there we go. Not at the RSL this year. Out at Grafton Firearms and Tackle.
Yeah. I did hear that whisper, but I wasn't sure because I knew Dan was going away barra fishing, so he's obviously going to be home in time for it. He's up Queensland at the moment, and a couple of the rivers there chasing the barra. But
He told
no,
you
it's 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 one of the best tackle shops you'll go to. It's like when you go to Ballina and call in the Bretts.
Oh, yep.
If it ain't on the shelf, you don't need it.
That's right. And if you get out of there not spending $500, you've done well. You've been restrained.
Yeah, no, Brett doesn't let you do that. So, but yeah, no, he's got a good setup there, good selection. A lot of diver stuff, of course. Any lure and a lot of Aussie made lures too. Yep. Joey's got a nice little selection on the wall there, and Paul Nella's stuff there, all the Aussie stuff there, as well as all the good Japanese stuff. So
sounds like it's going to be expensive for me, mate. Now let's drop back to your capacity as someone that makes sure the roads are fit to drive around Grafton.
Yep.
Which, if you're going to travel there, the Pacific Highway's all been good, apart from a day or two during the flood. But some of the peripheral roads, like the roads coming down from the hills, are they still drivable? What are people going to do?
If you're coming from south, do yourselves a favour, come through to Glen Innes and come down the Guida. Yep. Don't come down the Armadale Road. I was up there today. We won't have that repaired. I'd hate to be towing a boat up there.
Yeah.
Or down there, to be honest. If you can avoid it, avoid it. We just won't have time to get it up to scratch to be dragging $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 boats down there. You better an extra hour and a half, hour and a quarter, go to Glen Innes and come down the Guida.
Yep. Oh, well, that's good advice from someone who's out on the roads every day there.
Yeah. No, I was up there today, Steve. It's not pretty. We got crews up there, but yeah, it's we won't have it up to scratch. I wouldn't feel happy about sending anyone up there at the moment towing a $50,000 boat.
Yep.
Let's put it this way: I wouldn't be going up there with my tenny anyway.
There you go. And I know your tenny goes where the fish are and where it has to go. So that's good advice. And you don't even have to read between the lines because the mayor's saying that this is a better way to go. You go the better way. Mate, thanks very much for taking the time to join us tonight. I've got one final question for you before we let you go and have a well-earned beer.
Yep.
Who's your tip to win this tournament?
Oh, geez, mate. I haven't even looked at the list to see who's coming, to be honest.
Yeah, true. Well, that's good. If they were fishing the tournament, doesn't even matter if they're not entered. Who's best at dealing with these, fresh flush of water through the river conditions?
Oh, mate, we've had a few blokes there the last couple of years that have proven that they'll catch fish regardless.
Yeah.
Whether the river's dirty or clean or in the middle of a drought, I think, which we were the first one there. I think when Mike Nelson dragged out them good bags of fish. And you got blokes like Ebo and all the true river rats.
Yes.
And a lot of the dam guys now, they're starting to catch up on where we were we could stand alone and get away from the dam boys. They're starting to catch up on us now. So, but we're slowly catching up on them in the goldfish ponds too. So it's all good.
No,
I couldn't single out anyone, Steve. At the moment, it's anyone's game. Like it's no one really got a pre-fish in, and it's all going to come down to what you feel confident in doing on the pre-fish there in a couple of weeks, and next Friday there, and what you work out on the day.
No, it's good, mate, and that's good advice, mate. Thanks for all of the help that you give us. It's great. It's good to have a man in the ground in council to make sure the wheels of progress are turning. So thanks very much, and we'll see you when we get to Grafton.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, and we'll be catching up with you before then. We'll run through that plan on the car park and down there.
Indeed. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah. Right, guys. Catch us later.
What them sons of fish is up to now?
Fellas, I give you the Force Trolling Motor. It is the most powerful, the most efficient on the water.
Yep. Most powerful. really in trouble now.
And it's quiet, too. You can't swim here.
What a dumb bass.
There's a big one just there. Holy moly, that's big. Right up on that wash on the Spike 44. That's the deep runner, so just jamming into the rocks. You can see as I'm fishing it, it's a real slow retrieve. Kind of really careful with the rod tip. So as you feel the rock or the kelp, you just slow down and kind of lift your rod tip. That's the deep diving spike again, the EXDR. So there's an MR and an EXDR. This one will go down to probably a maximum of about 12 feet. And the MR is about half that, 6 feet. So using the deep one today on the washes. Working not too bad.
So ABT is going to Western Australia, and it's happening pretty soon. So we decided we're going to get WA's, I think, most capped tournament angler, Alex Griesdorf, on the show. Alex, welcome to the show.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Great to be on.
I know you're probably modest, but you would have an absolute shitload of trophies stashed away somewhere in your house there because you've won the odd event over there.
I got a few trophies, probably not so much as some of the big guys over east, but I still got one that is a very memorable one. I think with the last Lawrence AOI one from the old ABT days back in the day, which is like a paper mache brim. It's pretty cool.
Oh, it's when we had state-based AOI trophies. They were pretty cool.
That's it.
Geez, it was a big trophy bill to get trophies for every state, especially those the arty decorative ones.
Yeah, that one was awesome. And somehow I managed to get it from Queensland to WA without it getting wrecked, which is even better.
For 6 hours on your lap on the plane, that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's massive. But yeah, no, I do got a few trophies, but that I think is my I think that's my favorite one just because of how cool it looks.
Moving forward, the last tournament you fished, you won. Was this correct? Down at Albany? I was watching the weigh-in for the Albany tournament.
Oh, yeah. A couple of weeks ago. Yeah, well, a week and a half ago. Yeah, me and Ben Oakes, we managed to catch a few fish in the old King River and did well.
Yeah. But the question is, did you do an Al Lister dance when you got the big ones?
No, I don't think we danced, but we definitely did some fist pumping, especially on the Saturday because it was pretty tough going. Like we struggled for most of the day, and it was very odd conditions for Albany. It was like still and like 35 degrees and humid,
and not raining.
It wasn't raining on Saturday. No, Sunday it rained, but Saturday it was literally like if you wanted to go offshore fishing, it was the day because it was still no wind. It was perfect, and we struggled most of the morning, and then we sort of had a pre-fish plan, mixing it up between the two rivers, and yeah, the Calgan was just no good. So we said, oh, let's go to the King and have a look. And within about a half hour of going in there, I whacked our biggest fish of the weekend, which I think it was a 41 or a 42. And we were like, wow, like really? We just pulled that fish in like a foot of water on a still sunny day. It was a big surprise. And then, yeah, we fished there for the last hour of the day, and we ended up whacking one other good one in there, and which was really good. We had a really nice solid bag. Not huge for Albany standards, but just a solid bag. But the conditions made it really interesting how still and sunny, and they were still biting.
Give all the Easterners that may be watching and who haven't been to WA. I've lucky enough to have been to WA several times now. Just explain the fishery to us. It's a black brim and tarwine fishery. You haven't got yellowfins down in the south where we do the ABT events. Just explain how different it is in WA from the East Coast, because I know you've done both arenas.
Yeah, look, I mean the Western Australia system is pretty basic. Most of the time, you're trying to catch black brim. I mean, for our team events, it's basically black brim only. We don't let people weigh in Taiwan.
Yeah.
But they will come into play definitely in Mandurah and the Swan River, because there are some more so in Mandurah. There's probably bigger Taiwan around than the Swan.
Yeah.
But they are there. But yeah, most of our systems here are pretty much black brim. We do get Taiwan and some of the systems down south and that where we have had ABT events down in the Blackwood and in Albany.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean they're not as prolific. Like when I've been over east fishing in Lake Mac and that, caught heaps of Taiwan in those systems. They're not as prolific here. You'll get them, but they're not necessarily in the same areas as the blacks.
Yeah.
You know, they don't. They're more in the structure, real salty waters. Whereas your blacks can be this time of year. They can be, you know, right up the top of the rivers basically this time of year.
Mandurah is the first tournament we're going to run. It's your home water. You're a Mandurah local there. And
yeah.
When you come from east over to Mandurah, you look at this big lake and you think, man, that is going to be just like Foster. There are going to be bream all the way through this lake and it all looks really fishy. Give us a one-word description about how awesome the lake is for bream fishing.
Oh, so all the East Coasters go and fish it. It's great. There's heaps of fish out there.
It's rubbish, isn't it?
Nah, look, I'll put it this way. There's guys that commercially net out there and they don't even catch bream. So
can't catch a bream with a kilometre of net.
If there are bream out there, there's not a lot of them. And good luck catching them through the blowfish, put it that way.
And that was my first experience in the lake there. I'm driving across the lake and I just see one solitary pole, shags on top of it, nice weed, and I go, over east, the bream would be lining up to sit under that, and you would catch one first cast all the time, and it's like, I flogged that thing, never got a bite. So it's an interesting combination of arenas, Mandurah. It's got a very oceanic canal system near the mouth, which has giant bream in there, which are very educated. There's a big lake full of nothing, and then there's a couple of little rivers and creeks that run into it that are loaded full of black bream, and nearly always the question is, at what part of the river are the best black bream at? Would that be a fair description of the arena?
Yeah, very, very much so. There's actually 3 rivers that flow into the estuary. Yep. So you've got the Serpentine River, the Murray River, and then you've got the Harvey River right up the other end in the Peel estuary. Yep. It's a fair hike down the estuary. The Harvey's obviously the smallest one of the 3.
Yes.
And it's very hard to get into. It's very shallow to get into the mouth of it, but it can hold. I mean, people have won comps in there before. It's held big fish.
Yep.
But I would think the majority of the anglers are going to be fishing in the Murray and Serpentine rivers. Both hold loads of bream, and they range from right down at the mouth of the estuary, basically, to Pinjarra and the Murray where the weir is. I mean, I was talking to Chris Hickson a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that he caught bream up above the weir where you can't quite get a boat over it, but when the water gets real high, the fish can swim up over it, and there's actually a population up there of freshwater bream too. So you can catch bream, redfin, and trout at times of year up there as well.
It's an interesting year. We've done a few events at Mandurah before, and this is the first year that we're going to introduce a rule where you can trailer to a second boat ramp to put in, and this is because it's a long river with 4 knot zones, and if you don't have a second trailering location, we nearly delete some of the arena, or at least you spend over half your day driving to where you think the fish are going to be. Yeah. Being a local in the area, and I suppose you're not going to give too much away, but how popular is that going to be, the upstream launch?
Oh, I would probably say 80 to 90% of the anglers will go up there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very central position on the river, that location, the Murray Bend boat ramp. So people can go upriver from there, and they can go downriver from there. And it's very centrally located. So to give you an example, I've got a bass boat. If I were to go from the Ocean Marina to that ramp, it would be pretty much an hour to get there. So if we started at 7 o'clock in the morning at the Ocean Marina, drove all the way up there in the boat, if I'm going to go up a little ways past that, you're not going to be fishing till after 8 o'clock. Whereas as a trailer option, you can be fishing right then and there at the ramp. There's plenty of big fish right at that ramp, basically. And you can fish all the way up there from, I'd say it's about 10K from there roughly to the weir, maybe a little bit more. Yep. And then again, it's about 8K from there down to the estuary mouth. So there's 25K really of fishable water this time of year, which is really good. And it opens it up. Like I said, in years past where you had to launch at the marina, if it takes you an hour and a half to get up to where you want to fish, you got 3 hours to fish there, and then you got to kind of start making your way back. Whereas now you basically can launch, fish for a good 6 hours, and then make your way back, because it's only about a half-hour drive back to the ramp, maybe 40 minutes if you want to, allow yourself a little bit of extra time. So it's going to open the marina up. There's lots of fish to be caught up there, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of solid fish pulled in from up there, especially starting early in the morning.
Now, the Mandurah itself, it's got a 5 brim limit we can run there, hasn't it? Whereas the Swan, the next arena, has a 4 brim limit. Explain why the difference.
Well, I mean, for our classic series for the boats, we've always run 4 fish on both Mandurah and the Swan.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the ABTs, you're able to run 5. I mean, we could run 5 fish if we wanted to for Mandurah, but the Swan has a rule where you can't have in your possession more than 2 40-centimeter brim per fishing license.
Yeah.
So basically, as a team comp in 4 fish, realistically, you can hold 440s.
What I want you to explain the Swan, and again, I've done a bit of time on the Swan, and it's a great varied river. It can be crystal clear and a lot of current down the mouth, and it can be sort of stained water and lots of black brim up the top. It's a really varied arena as well. Just explain that Swan River system to us, and it runs right through the guts of Perth.
Yeah, look, I mean the Swan River and the Canning River is a fantastic fishery. There's great fish to be caught. Many tournaments have been won right in front of the city, basically, over the years. You can catch fish right down the bottom end towards Freo, where the water will be, pretty much ocean water coming in from the harbour, to 20 kilometres upriver, where the water is real not brackish, but real dirtyish sort of water. And these snags and flats and mud flats and, rock bars and all sorts of stuff like that to fish. And then you've got the Canning, which is generally speaking more or less a flat system, but it does have a couple of bridges there and some plenty of structure to fish as well. But there's the loads of fishing opportunities between the 2 rivers. Like I said, from bridges to flats to rocks to you name it, you can catch fish, and there's fish everywhere. There's anywhere where there's structure, you'll catch fish, and there's fish all over the flats as well.
One of the interesting things that we talked about, off the air, was the fact that you're allowed to fish from a boat. You're allowed to fish to the yacht clubs, and there are plenty of yacht clubs in the area. And last time I fished the Swan from a boat, which was probably 20 years ago, there was plenty of big brim in those yacht clubs. How smart are they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the great thing about the yacht clubs is that you can fish them. That's the great thing about it. I mean, some of the people there will tell you to bugger off, but it's not actually out of bounds to fish any of the yacht clubs. There's not a no fishing boundary like they have on the East Coast, where there's pretty much no fishing through the yacht clubs. Here is one of the few venues where you can fish all through them, basically. And they range from, there's shallow water ones where the tide really rips through, to ones that have got 6 meters of water underneath some of the jetties and pylons and stuff like that. So there's all different depth ranges and ones you can fish that are out of current and ones that are fish that are in current. There's loads of different options there.
Tell us what sort of bags we can expect, and this is for both arenas, Mandurah and Perth. What sort of weight for a bag would you need in each arena to be doing well in your estimation? And you know a fair bit about what it takes to win there.
Look, I think if the weather kind of is all right and we don't have really still sunny days, and there's a bit of wind, there's a bit of cloud on both of the event days, Mandurah with a 5 fish bag, you're going to probably need 4 kilos a day, I think, to win it, or close to it. So 7 to 8 kilos over the 2 days. If it's like still glassy and sunny, you might shave a few kilos off that, but that's sort of my thoughts. With the Swan, again, 4 fish bag, if you're getting around the 6 kilo mark, I think that'll probably be enough. Maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But there's plenty of big fish in the Swan as well.
Yeah,
but it's not quite the right time of year for the real big ones in the Swan, but it's a good time of year for Mandurah. Mandurah should provide plenty of big fish.
That's interesting, because we do have a few East Coasters coming across. I know I'm coming across to fish as a boat. We've got a few non-boaters coming across. And man, there are some good brim over there. Like, I think what's the record for the biggest black brim that's come out of the Swan? Is it around like in an ABT event? I think I've seen them like 1.8 kilos come out of there.
Yeah, years ago there was I think a 1.8 or a 1.9 caught in a brim comp, which is a pretty hefty black brim. Over the last sort of 10 years, big brim generally is around the 1.2 kilo mark around the Swan, sort of 1.1, 1.2. So there's plenty of solid fish in the Swan. it's same with Mandurah. Mandurah, the fish are very fat. So if you catch a big one, like if you catch a 40+ centimeter fish, they're going to be well over a kilo. They're very wide, thick fish. And that's the same with both catching them up in the river and in the canal systems and stuff like that. So they're very very healthy fish. Put it that way.
Big thanks to you and the West Australian tournament crew for lending us the scales and helping us out with some of the infrastructure from WA, because just respectfully, there was no way I was driving that van across Australia to drag a fan's scales across.
A long drive.
Just one last hint for people that might be watching and thinking, I might give that tournament fishing a go. If you were just to pick one lure in each of the arenas as your go-to lure to win a tournament with, what would it be?
Jeez.
And this is an unscripted question. He didn't know this one was coming, so...
Well, look, put it this way: in both of the systems, I'm going to have probably a bloodworm grub tied on. Put it that way, a Z-Man grub. So
same as East Coast.
Yeah, same as the East Coast. But look, there's going to be some different lures that'll work. But one of my favorite baits is a bloodworm grub, and I'll definitely be having that tied on for both systems. Put it that way. But I'll definitely have a few other little tricks up my sleeve as well to try to catch a few fish. But the great thing about the two systems here is if you like fishing plastics, you catch them on plastics. You like fishing hard bodies, you'll catch fish on hard bodies. You like fishing crabs, you'll probably catch fish on crabs. So both systems provide an angler with being able to catch fish on pretty much whatever they like to do. It's sort of those sort of places. It's not pigeonholed to one technique. You got to throw, big jerk baits over the flats, otherwise you're not going to catch anything. It's not like that. You'll catch them on pretty much anything in the two systems, but just got to remember that they're pressured. They're not silly Tassie brim. They're brim that betos fish for them all day long, and other brim anglers fish for them all day long. So they're not stupid. Well, there are stupid ones, but not all of them are. Put it that way.
There you go. Well, mate, we really appreciate that insight. We appreciate your assistance. And we look forward to getting across to WA in a few weeks, because let's hope we can see some good bags come across the scales. And I want a couple of good quality WA anglers to qualify and come over to Malakuta, because I think Malakuta is a dead set slam dunk for WA anglers, because I think it would really suit your guys' style of fishing.
Yeah, well, look, I'm fully stoked. I hope to qualify myself, because I'd love to give Kuta a crack. So I got addicted to the Foster yellows when I went over there in the kayaks, and I want to get back and chase some yellows and some black brim over there. It'd be awesome.
Awesome, mate. Well, good luck there, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries, guys. Cheers.
So that was it. Tony Thorley and Alex Griesdorf getting us up to date with the arenas that we have coming up. Remember, we've got the competitions tonight. And although we aren't doing this show live, it's been pre-recorded, we are going to be down in the comments monitoring, and we're going to draw those prizes at the end of the broadcast of this show. So they're two identical prizes consisting of Zarek, Samaki, Wilson, bit of Daiwa bait junkie gear there. It doesn't matter if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Write down where you're from down below. Nicole will pick a winner come the end of tonight. We're all waiting for it. The golden tapeworm, his nickname used to be. Let's go and have a chat with our mate, Carl Jocumsen.
You'll have a chance for showers or thunderstorms, and also little disturbances rumbling along this thing will bring us a chance for rain.
So here he is. We've interviewed Carl Jocumsen so many times. He's been on highs, he's been on lows. I'm having a guess at the moment, mate. you're a fair 9 to 9.5 out of 10 at the moment. Welcome.
Yeah, sitting in the high 9s, almost 10 out of 10. I was 7 spots off 10 out of 10, but I'm still buzzing. Still was an amazing week. Didn't get the win, but it's pretty hard to complain with a week like that. It was awesome.
And I think it's pretty fitting that, on the ABT live show, I don't even need to say what last week was about, because I reckon every single person watching this today was pretty up to date on how you were going. I know that I was sort of lucky enough to be off work last week with a bit of a lip sun cancer thing going on. And I had to entertain me 4 nights of watching Bassmaster live. So well produced, that show. It's so awesome. Yeah. But most of those nights had Carl Jocumsen on the camera. And even the day that you weren't on camera, all they were doing was showing replays of shit going right, shit going wrong. It was like you had all the coverage and you didn't even have a camera on your boat.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, even like I think it was day 3. I started off in the first half now with a 6 and a 7, like back to back. And I was like, that's going to get everyone stirred up for sure.
Oh, yeah. And
wishing I had a camera.
Give everyone a background. Like if you didn't watch it, if you somehow didn't see what happened to Carl, you ended up with a top 10 finish. Your season's back on track. You look like you're pretty much on that Bassmaster Classic cut. I've already had like 10 people message me saying, when are we going to the Classic next year when Carl's in? So there'll be a contingent of Aussies there, which is going to be not insignificant. It's all back on track, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I just two tournaments in a row and we got them back. So we had Santee Cooper about 3 weeks ago, and I got a 33rd, I think, there. And, that was a solid finish, not exactly what I wanted after fishing second there in 2020. Really wanted to have a good showing. But, I had 2 tough tournaments in Florida. So it's like, okay, I got to dig my way out of this again. And so it was good to just make the cut, fish Saturday, caught plenty of fish, got on some big ones, and just finished with a solid check and got better points. But going in Chickamauga, I think I was still in the 60s. I think I might have been 68th in the points. So fairly well down there. And this is also a pretty big cut year again. There's going to be a lot of guys cut again. So, there's so many guys trying to make the elites right now. Like, you can't afford to screw up. You're going to see some really high-end anglers get cut again from the elites. So there's a lot on the line, a lot of pressure. But I've definitely just grown to where, like, I don't think about that anymore. If I got kicked out, I would figure it out. I would go and I would fish the tour and I'd get back in. I don't have that kind of pressure where I feel like it's be all end all if I'm there or not. I'm loving every day that I'm there. So it helps you fish with a clear mind. You just can't compete if you're worried about money or about points or about getting kicked out. There's too many guys that don't have those worries and they're just competing to win. And if you aren't just doing that, then you're never ever going to be in the ball game. So I'm just lucky I've got myself in that position. I've gone through those trenches and come out the other side and realized, it wasn't that bad. I thought it was the end of the world, but it was actually good for me, and then back in again. So just having a little bit better mindset's definitely helping me fish a lot more. And also being a dad and having Kayla and having our home base here, all things that are just more established and just help you to realize like that there's bigger things in life, than that. So that has helped me big time in last year where I could have got kicked out, and this year where they're cutting another 10 plus people or more, and more people are coming in. So had 2 tough tournaments in Florida. Nothing I could really do there. Just ended up in bad areas, and your one bite, like I had those bites. So 1 7-pound bite, and you were like hero, and then you don't get that 7-pound bite, and you're 65th or 70th, and that's how it kind of went for me. So got to Santee Cooper. Luckily I end up in the wrong areas again at Santee, and just lucky I outfished everyone in those areas, because I think Brandon Lester was the only one that got a check in the areas that I was fishing. Everyone else was gone. So I'm like, I got in the wrong areas, but I made a couple adjustments, and got those bites. And so came into Chickamauga, had 2 weeks at home, got in the shop here. I live 15 minutes from the middle of Chickamauga, one of the best boat ramps, 30 minutes from Dayton, which is Bass Town, USA, like one of the biggest bass towns in the US. And that was where the tournament went out of. And so we had Matty Wong and Gussie staying up here for the week, and just had a really good couple weeks getting prepared for it. And then it was weird just staying here, eating here, getting up and rolling the shop door open and going and practicing for an elite event. It was awesome. And we just got wild weather. We got super cold, freezing mornings, and it never, ever warmed up, but it hit those temperatures to where one of the reasons I moved here is I hit this lake a couple times in March and early April, and it was like this. It was cold, and I caught 1 week. I had a week where I caught a 10-10, which is still my PB, and it was on the Arashi glide. I caught 9-pounders, 8-pounders, 7-pounders, hooked teen fish, just unbelievable weeks. And I spent so much time on the water then that I figured out little key areas where those big ones like to slide up right before they wanted to spawn. And so I've done that year after year since almost the start, probably since 2018. And so I went into this and it all lined up. And then we got a slight warming trend. Those fish went to spawn, then it got a little bit cold and it held them there. And that means they're there, they're aggressive, they want to feed, but they don't quite want to spawn yet. And I end up finding them a little bit different. Like, it's something that I've done that not a lot of people do, is I pitch a glide bait around really thick, heavy cover into structure and picking my cast between little forks. And on the final day of practice, I had like 25 bites on the glide. I had my hooks rolled in one bay, and I had like a 6 and a 7 come out and just eat it like a bone and just trying to shake them off. And so I had a lot of confidence, going in. And then my biggest concern was that it was going to get too cold, and that's what it did. And so we had a day off on Wednesday, and it ended up getting an 80+ degree day. It warmed up, and then I went into day one, and they were sitting there ready to be caught, and there was nothing I could do. It was like, the first tree I went up to, I said, this is where I shook a 6-pounder off, and I pitched in there, twitched it, and the same fish came out and just ate it. Boat flipped it. It was a 7.5. Went across the other side, twitched around a tree, a 5-pounder chased it out, and I figure eighted it like a muskie, and it ate it off my rod tip, and I boat flipped it.
Yeah.
and then I had like 2.5, 3-pounders chasing it on a lay down, trying to bite it, and then a 4.5 just pushes them out of the way and eats it. It was one of those days where it's just like, and I landed everything. I never lost one. And then that cold front hit. And so the next morning it was almost freezing in the morning. Water temps dropped 3 degrees. And that's when you saw me on live. And instead of those fish rushing out and just eating it, they were nipping it, following it, bumping it. And then I had the couple unlucky deals. I had the snap clip open up on me, which has never happened. And I have so many people always say, why are you using a snap clip? And people just love to like get on me about that because it seems so wrong. But trust me, I've done everything and anything to try something different that is more flawless, and there's nothing. No matter what you do, if you put a split ring in there with a swivel, if you tie a loop knot, it doesn't matter. You won't get the bites that I was getting. The bait does not work without that D-type snap in there. It's the best. I've tried it all. The risk is that it could open up, but it's a 100-pound snap clip. Your 20, 25-pound fluorocarbon is going to snap before that ever even looks like opening. But unfortunately, I think I've hit something because I was throwing it around so much tight stuff. Yeah. And it pinched it a little bit. And then when I went to boat flip a 5-pounder, after 2 other 5-pounders ate it and missed it, it came off. And, literally I lost a 5 and a 7 that were properly hooked that I should have got in, and they were the winning fish. Yeah. And I land them, I win, my second ever elite. But, it was just... I've spoken about it with Brandon for years. It was like, I want to win an elite event on a glide bait, and I don't think it's ever been done.
Yeah.
And that's one of my best chances. But I had a solid top 10, ended up finished 7th, got a really good check, and jumped from like 68th in the points to 41st.
Yeah.
And so that was a monstrous jump. You know, probably 43, around that 43, 44 will get taken into the Classic.
Yeah.
And so now I've got you know, we've still got a ton of events to go. Lots can happen, but I'm just heading in the right direction, try and get inside that cut.
That's great. And look, you know, you've made your money and made your career sort of on the back of a jig. And so you sort of
Yeah.
be known as Carl, you know, the fish the jig reel slow guy. But now you're not. Now you're Carl, the big glide
Yeah.
bait, like, you know, let's go over the top at 100 miles an hour guy. And it's good because that adds a bit of depth to your career now. And look,
Yeah.
like everyone that was watching live, and you know, we all saw you lose those fish like 75 times the next day because it was pretty slow on the last day. They love playing the replay of you doing your star jumps in the boat when you lose the fish. You know, it's like it got plenty of coverage. But I want you to like show us the bait and give the ABT live viewers a few tips, because I know they're going to want to take it out and try this technique on Murray cod, try it on Barra, try it on Mulloway. So run us through Arashing and Molluxing 101.
Yep. What's crazy is, you know, I have a stupid amount of glide baits. I could probably retire if I sell all my glide baits. I have a problem. And some of them are worth $600. They're ridiculous. And I have custom bait guys make me them all the time. And that's my thing. I really enjoy a good glide bait. My two favorite glide baits that I've caught my PB on and I've caught more bass on than any other glide bait are worth $30 and $40 US. They're the cheapest glide bait that you can buy. I don't know how much is the Molex and Arashi in Australia.
They're about 60, 70 bucks.
Yeah. And so, you know, for the size of the bait, you know, that's reasonable. And like, you don't need to buy a ton of them, 1 or 2 colors, and you kind of have them for a long time. So that's what's crazy. It's all about the action, and it's all about having the right shape. And these two are the two I've caught more bass on than any other. And I helped design the Molex 178. It's more of a thread fin. And one of the reasons I didn't catch as many on this as the Arashi was we haven't got a translucent color. The water was really clear, so I wanted a more translucent color, and they've got them, but I didn't get them in time. And they more feed on this one when they're feeding on like on gizzard shad and shad. This has a much more erratic action to where I can get them to commit when they're in a feeding mode. The Arashi's a little bit more sort of territorial style. They'll still eat it for a feed, but it worked because they were setting up in those ambush positions, and I could glide it a little bit longer and get it up, sitting up into those laydowns. So they're my two. The way they're set up, you know, I put quads on them. I don't know if you guys have quads in Australia, but that's a game changer when it comes to a glide bait. So you got four points on there. I change everything over to owner hyperwire split rings. Upgrade a little bit, and then I put a snap with a swivel on the front. So for the Barra guys and the cod guys, you might want to, you know, obviously up it a little bit more. Brandon and I have been talking about putting heat shrink over it, stuff like that, maybe something just to make it even stronger. But that D in there is what gives it the action. If you don't have that, it's just not going to do it. And you need the swivel on there, because when you throw it, it spirals and it's going to twist your line up and weaken your line. And so I use fluorocarbon straight through 20, 22 pound sunline shooter. But for the Aussies, you're going to want 50-pound braid with like a 40 to 60 pound leader. We'll be fine. You'll be able to do everything you want with that. And then, you know, for the rod and reel, obviously Miller rods that we have them in Australia too. It's the Dream Freak. The Dream Freak has just been, both Ian and I have worked on it for so long. We came up with the perfect handle size, the perfect power. This is the ultimate rod for Murray cod back home, Barra. just throwing a glide. It's awesome. And then he has sent me, which I've been testing over the last few months, is the Ambush, which is an Australian rod.
Yep.
And it's kind of, to me, it's a shorter version of the Dream Freak. And I actually used it at Glen Lyon when I was home last time, and we were skipping those big Bassman mumblers up underneath huge trees and catching, 20, 30-pound Murray cod. And that's where I fell in love with that rod. So for the Aussies, if you're on a little bit bigger, like if you're on some open water and you want long casts, the Dream Freak. And if you want to make short, accurate casts, use the Ambush. Be perfect for Barra and Murray cod and flathead. Flathead have been a huge play on the big glides for the giant flatties. And then the reel, I use Shimano, I use the Tranks. It's got a big handle, a big crank, and then you want to use a low gear ratio, so 5.8 to 1. That's really important. This mainly because you want to use it like a winch, and when you're chopping it, it's taking super short, sharp pieces of liner, and that's what's getting it to do the crazy erratic turns. And I'm like, when I throw it into those laydown, I would sink it just past the bulk of the laydown. I would twitch it short way one way and then hit it again. So I'd go away from the log for like an inch, and then I'd hit it again and then leave it, and then it would glide all the way underneath that laydown. Then I would long twitch it, it would come out, then hit it again, it would go all the way back under. So I can get it to walk to the left or right, whichever way. So if I want it, I could get it to go under a dock 6 feet. But I couldn't take my eyes off of my bait for 1 second. If I did, it would get stuck. So if you watch me when I'm fishing, I'm watching it the whole time, and I'm literally bumping a stick and then twitching it away from that stick and then getting it to come all the way back around. They would come out of there and eat it. And we just got lucky, and my mate Bud Cipoletti from Featherwick, he's just doing phenomenal work film-wise, and he was in town, and he's like, hey, I got a good feeling about this event. I'm going to come and film it. And I was like, all right. And so him and Eric, his sort of sidekick that films with him, they filmed the whole lot, and they got every single one of those fish catches on film. So we're going to have a really cool edit here coming up.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mate, that was great to see. The only thing we want to see is more Carl Jocumsen throwing glide baits. We saw it a lot on live, but to have some footage of that first day must be fantastic to have in the memory bank and on the computer.
Yeah, I just been downloading the GoPro footage, and it's pretty epic. I boat flipped that 7.5, and seeing me, like, I'm winding the glide bait in, and then you see me, and I stop, and there's like 2 feet of line out, and I'm like twitching, and then the fish is coming up, bumping it and turning, and I'm like just slowly moving it with the rod tip, and it blasted off my rod tip, and I boat flip it, 5-pounder. It was an amazing day, and then I knew it was going to get tough on that last day too. Like I knew that if I can have a decent day, I would have a shot to win. We got bluebird skies and clear and no wind, and I had the bites I had the second biggest bag of the day on day 4, and Christy ended up winning. And the only thing that I should have done, that I know that with the falling water temps, they get back on a paddle tail a lot more. That's what happens to the glide. The glide likes a rising water temp, not a falling water temp, and I knew that. But they were so on it that I was almost pushing it too hard. And as that water fell more and more, on day 3, I went to a paddle tail just off of a drop, and I caught a 6 and a 7 in the space of like 20 minutes. And I was like, I'm about to catch 30 pounds and get back in this. And then those fish are so pressured there that then they just stopped. But on that final day, I threw that big 8-inch mag draft in between the laydowns. Yep. And if I had done that on day 2 and maybe day 3, I think that would have made up for the slow day. Just, I didn't have any confidence. Like, a fish would come out, bite the glide, not get the hooks, lollipop back down into that laydown. I would see it, it's in there. I would sit there for 20 minutes trying to catch it with all of those rods on my deck and not get a bite. And then I'd throw the glide back in there, and here it comes again. And I'm like, oh, you sucker. So I was just sort of like, I knew that my chance to win is if 5 fish bite that glide and I put them in the boat. And 5 fish did bite it, and if I put them in the boat, I win. But unfortunately, glide, that's just not how it always goes.
Now, one of the questions I got for you is you're fishing Mondrian. You got a big laydown coming down. There's not a 5-pounder or a 7 or a 9-pound largemouth in there. There's a 35-pound metre plus barra in there. How brave are you twitching that glide under that laydown?
Hey, I'm sponsored by both these companies, so I'm putting it.
It's going in.
Yeah, I'm not putting a custom hand carved.
You're not putting a Raven mate in there.
No. Yeah, I'll sacrifice a couple of Molochs and Arashis, sacrificial ones.
That's right.
But yeah, I look forward to trying. I actually caught Barra the last time I was home, or the time before that, on a big bull shad with Jace and Chris. Caught some nice ones on it. So it definitely, the glide definitely works. It's a little bit of a scary thing because it's a heavy lure, with trebles. It's not the best for Barra, but not for the best for landing them, I guess, but good for getting bites. And and Timmy, and you've seen it, land plenty of big fish. Big dewies, like big mulloway, that should be ideal for too. I bet you at night, like off the rocks or in the river, like in that shallow water late afternoon, that'd be ideal.
And Murray cod, you're like hammering a snag for a Murray cod. That might be the twitch that turns them on for the Aussie anglers, eh?
Yeah, 100%. That's like, for me, that's like, I want to come home one time for like a good amount of time and go Murray cod. I want to go barra fishing and Murray. I'm just dying to go Murray. The next time I'm home, I'm barra fishing and Murray cod fishing, just to get my fix. But I don't think I've caught a cod on a glide. I don't think I've caught a big Murray cod on a glide bait. Caught some small ones. So the last time, or the few times ago, we went to Kubi and we tied up the big 10 and 8 inch mag draft, and Chris caught that like 125 centimetre Murray cod, just inhaled it. So the big swing, it's been awesome from over here watching Ian Miller and all those guys just chasing giant cod on glide baits and big swim baits and big top waters, and sort of seeing, the US influence really coming in, because we didn't really think we had the fish. Like our Aussie bass do it a little bit like a little bit of US techniques, but it's cool to see like that side really take off on the Murray cod side of things. That's been the coolest thing to watch from over here.
Well, you don't have to be too secretive, mate, because I want you to tell everyone watching the show what's probably happening at the end of this year.
The plan is that I'm going to be coming back home in November and hopefully heading north and fishing the ABT Barra Tour.
That's it.
We've
talked about it for a while.
What's that?
We've talked about it for a while, but
I know. I've been trying to make it happen for so long, and hopefully I'll be fishing with someone from a family member.
Family member.
Could be in Australia, could be from the US. You don't know. Hopefully bring someone over. But I get more questions about barra fishing from the Americans over here than any. I just can't wait for more of them to be able to come back over and experience it. So super excited. That looks like we're planning it. We're organising it. I'm going to bring some of my gear over. We've got stuff organised with ABT, and I'm going to hopefully be fishing almost the entire the southern section, I guess.
The Mackay, Canberra, all the cool Mackay lakes. So that's awesome,
looking
mate.
good.
We've been sitting on that for a while, but it'll be interesting to see who gets the lucky ticket to come across with Carl. And of course, if you come across, you're going to be making lots of cool content as well. And I'm just really keen on seeing a largemouth guy that loves muscling a fish in just get brought to their knees by a barra. It's like, come on, mate, get it in. And it's like, I can't.
Yeah. I know. That's right. There's still, the only thing I've found that's even remotely close is snook over here. Snook set up, and they are literally like almost like exactly like a barramundi. Their lips and their teeth, their face, the way they bite, it's that same boof, and you can catch them doing similar techniques. They don't they just don't have them in the dams or in the salt water, but I've got to catch some really nice ones with Dingo, Jared Boschhammer. I think you guys know.
Yeah, guides over there,
Yeah, he lives out of Jupiter. So anytime I'm in Florida, I usually get to catch up with him. And the last time we were there, I caught a 38 and a 40-inch muskie casting swim baits around. I'm like, it's the same thing. It's that lightning fast donk, and it's good fun. They're not so much around structure. They're few around docks and stuff, but that's the closest thing they have to a barramundi over here, I think.
That's cool, mate. I know that it's you've had some great memories. Of course, you dominated in Australia. Only this morning on the ABT page, I put up an interview that Marcel Krieger did with you at Barrumba years ago when you won one of the Bass Majors there. And it was really interesting. You know, you got a little Carl voice on, sort of like this, and he was interviewing you, and you're like, for the first 3 hours, it was pretty tough, and I didn't have any fish. And I go, that's exactly. I've heard that a lot nowadays. It seems like you get better as the day goes on in a lot of these events, and it was great to see the little Carl. There was no neckbeard at all then.
No,
you know, still dominating back then. That was 15 years ago. That interview. You should check it out on the ABT page. It'll bring back some
crazy. I know the exact interview. I think I had that like camo bucket hat on.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember it. I remember. I won. Yeah, that was the Brumble
one. $5,000.
Yeah.
Happy days.
How's the? Has Matty got me in? Who's winning in the money? Money.
You know what? He's sort of.
He'd have to be
starter. I don't think he's got you yet, but I wrote him a check for $9,000 last week, so he's catching you quick.
Pretty big thing in it.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have to get you and Matty. We might have to get something going head to head when you're over here as well, because we've got to settle the question. You know, is the old bull or the young bull better?
I think he's older than me.
Well, I didn't say you were the old bull.
Yeah, that's true.
Before we go, and really appreciate your time, you know, talking to your Aussie fans, because they all love hearing an interview from you. Just take us for a little walk around your shop, and I want you to show us some of the memorabilia, because I see a big old AFC jersey up on the wall there.
So they might have seen that the guys from Australia, and they organised to bring all of that stuff over through my mum and David Oliver and those guys from the Australian Air Force. Just unbelievable. They literally filled their container with my memorabilia and some of my stuff in Australia. They heard that I wanted to bring it over, and they end up making it happen. So it was one of the coolest things. So up on the top shop, that's the AFC from 2005. That's the jersey, and it's signed by you and Timmy, Adam Reuter, Steve, Starlo, Hickson.
Is that when you won four events, all four of them?
Yeah, that was when I won all four. And then this one is really cool. So this is the grand final win in 2008, and I won AOY that year too. So it's like my patches from all the rounds, and then it was ranked number one, and then the pictures from that week, that was the fish that I had on that won me the whole deal, and then the salmon and the little atomic there that I caught those fish on.
Wait a sec, just go back. I want to see how big your arms are when you're holding those bass up. Check out those little noodles you got holding the bass up. Show us your biceps.
I can barely hold them. So I got the boat. The shop is it's literally my dream shop. Got the outback in here right now, opening everything up and just drying it out and getting a bunch of stuff done. I built all these shells. I got my tackle, my tackle, and then everything. It's like a little mini tackle store in here, but it's just my dream shop. The other night after the event, we had Brandon and everyone, Maddie, everyone was up here on the Sunday night. We had a huge crew and we had a big ping pong championship, but I'm still undefeated in the shop. So if anyone wants to take me on, they're calling me the Bud was calling me the ping pong emperor, he reckons.
Forrest Gump.
So, and then these made it here safe, which is really cool. They've been in fishing bits ever since I won them, and they were my AOY trophies from Glenbourne and St Clair. And I think these are actually a skin mount, aren't they? Didn't they get them skin mounted? Are they the real ones?
When an American asks you what an Aussie bass is like, you can now just point to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's so cool. They're some of the best mounts that I've seen. I got to get the plaques made for them, and then the whole reason we're here.
Of course.
There.
Hey, the question I got is if you won at Chickamauga on the weekend, what gets boned off the top shelf there?
I know that'd be together. I think that'd be together.
I know, but what you'd have to take something off to fit it on. Would it be the FLW trophy?
Yeah, the second place would come down a shelf, I'd say.
Fair call.
But yeah, no, it's cool. Shop's coming up good. It's amazing to always look back and see all the Aussie memories, and I just I love having that memorabilia. I'm so glad that I did all that and kept it, when back then, and to see it, have it over here in the shop is pretty awesome.
One final thing before you go, mate, and I don't know if you picked up on this, but I think it was the third day. Was it the third day or the fourth day? No, it might have been the second or third day. You had Matty Wong, Gussie, and you were staying at your place. If you're watching back on that day, all three of you were leading the tournament at one point. Matty, I think Gussie got a really early limit, and he was leading first up in the morning. And then Matty got a couple of good fish, and he was leading. And then you got some fish, and then you were leading. I'm pretty sure it was all in the one day.
Wow, that's crazy. I saw you did the post about us cleaning up and some good karma, so I was like, yeah, that's awesome. That was cool. Yeah. It's always, it's just, you never get this kind of vibe too much. We get it a little bit at the campgrounds, but Gussie and Matty, like Matty's sort of just, it's his rookie season. He's really, winging it. And then Gussie's kind of like houses and different stuff because he's coming down from Canada. And so when you get a really good vibe going and you're camping together or you're all together, good stuff happens like that. You get super dialed in and I was able to, we all just worked together and we all had great events. So the atmosphere and the mood here was very good all week because it doesn't always happen, like it is devastating to anglers when you have a bomb and so like, often there's two or three that are on a big high. They got to check they've had a great event, and then you got one or two guys that have had an 80th, and they've had a couple bad events, and it's tough then because you want to be happy, and they're having a tough week, and it's happened to me a lot, and
the other side of it.
Yeah, I know that side and I feel it and I hate it for anyone that has to go through that, but that's just a part of the sport. And, it was just cool that everyone caught him here. And when Brandon came up and Brandon had a great event, he only just missed the top 10. Swindle made a check. The only one is Josh Douglas. He had a tough one, and he was camping at Blue Water and, he's lived here and local, and where Josh is part of the crew with us, and he was the only one that missed out on a check. But he had a great event at Santee, had a huge bag, and he's going to catch him this year. So I'm not worried about him.
Well, appreciate that. Appreciate you dropping that news for us. I really like the glide bait tips, mate, and I'm really keen to see if you can lose, a couple $100 with them around snags when you're over here.
I'll probably lose one, and then I'll put it away. I'll get one each. Will get sacrificial cast, and then if they go, then that'll be it.
Now, young Tommy Wood, who's probably watching this, when you're talking, you went to the soft swim bait. I bet you Tommy was sitting there with his fingers crossed going, black gold slicky, black gold slicky.
Yeah. But I've caught bass on the slickies over here, but they that was a big 80, big mag draft and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll be definitely bringing a good assortment of different baits that I've got over here that I've been excited to use on the BARRA.
Awesome, mate. Hey, we're going to catch up with you again, I'm sure, probably after your next event. You've got a bit of a break now, so appreciate the time this morning, mate, and good luck for the next one.
Yep, thanks, guys. Appreciate all the support. Team Jocumsen and all the Aussies. I see all of the comments and all the support and all the messages. It's honestly, it's just super humbling, and I love doing it for you guys just as much as I do it for me and Kayla and Little Rivy.
Awesome, mate. So we know that interview went on for a fair while, but I don't think there's anyone that I know it isn't keen on knowing what's going on inside Carl's head. Seems like he's in a really good space at the moment. Man, is he looking forward to coming to Australia, and he's got an idea of who he might get to come over with him, but rest assured, Carl's coming, and we might have another Bassmaster Elite Pro coming across. Who knows? Who knows how it's going to pan out, but all I know is it's going to be a great Barra tour this year. If you're thinking of coming up, there's no border restrictions anymore. Sign up, fish with your mate, do one event, do all the events. We go all the way from Tinaroo down to the Australian Open on a Wonga. If you want to catch a Barra, this is the year to do it. Coming up, we have Matthew Langford and Zane Wyatt. We hope you appreciate their interviews. So here he is. This is bass fishing royalty nowadays. It is the man who everything he touches turns to gold. Matty Langford, thank you for honouring us with your presence. You are on the roll of a lifetime, aren't you?
Yeah, having a little bit of a purple patch, but it's come at a good time too because Coney started well with the roll at down south there, but I just had to try and do better at the last two, and it turned out that way.
Well, you know what? It's funny. You look at the Angler of the Year points table. You shank the next couple of events, you can lose Angler of the Year with 3 wins on the side.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that 8th place at Glen Maggie could come back to haunt me, but I've got 2 more events to go, and I'm pretty confident I can hopefully chip that 8th place away anyway, hopefully.
Yeah, it's look, and we haven't caught up with you since your Victorian tour was sensational. That win at Blue Rock, how good was it? You caught like the biggest bass in the whole lake when everyone else, and me included, I'm catching bass like this. You're catching like high 40s fish, which are just lapping the rest of the field. It was how do you prepare for an event like that? I know you fished Blue Rock before, but were you targeting big fish, or were you just kissed on the proverbial?
No, I think the way that I've been fishing the last couple of years, I've talked about it to a couple of guys. I try and stay away from the numbers, if that makes sense. So if I know, if there's a tough tournament where you just have to catch 5, I'll go for obviously trying to catch any 5. But there's a handful of guys out there that, always say, I want to go through the numbers and try and upgrade that way. But if I can get onto something half decent into pre-fish and just, look at targeting big fish, then that's what I'll do. And, some pre-fish days you can figure out how to catch the bigger ones a bit easier than other days. But, I like to think for Sinclair, for example, and Blue Rock was a good example as well. There was plenty of little fish to catch. It was just trying to catch those big ones. And I think the big thing is don't sort of get stuck into baits that are, and I had this conversation today with a couple of clients I had at Boondoomba. I think not getting stuck in the same way, throwing the similar small lures that everyone throws down there. I think getting away from that a little bit can help you catch those big fish, show those bigger fish something new, and that I think that definitely helps as well.
What I noticed, and I cut up both of the highlights reels that you guys did from Sinclair. We've released both of those recently, and you, Mick, Dane Price, fantastic footage from those southern lakes.
Yeah.
What stuck out to me is the sponsor karma involved in it. Rapala and their sub brand 13 Fishing, sponsor of that series. Tell us the bait you catching most of your fish on at Sinclair.
Yeah, so that was pre-fish day. Went out and threw a whole bunch of stuff, but my big bites on pre-fish day were a Rapala X-Rap 6. I had a mate a few years ago saying, "Oh, you got to get onto the little X-Raps, the 60 mil ones. They're great for bass." And when I first was with Rapala, that was the first thing that I wanted, was the X-Rap 6s, and I did all right with them last year at Glenbourne, but this year I was confident in using them, and during that pre-fish, I found one particular bank up the Fallbrook Arm, and it was a live roach X-Rap 6. And I threw it along this bank, and I got one good bite, and it was about a 1.2. I thought, that's a good one. And then I did another half a dozen casts and caught one about a kilo. And then the very next cast after that, I caught one about 1.4. And I thought, I've just got to throw this all day. And that's what I did. And It turned out it obviously wasn't that easy to catch big fish all the time, but I was probably only catching 6 to 10 fish, I guess. But they were all, well, the high majority were over a kilo. I think I averaged sort of 1.2 to 1.3 kilos, and at Sinclair, they're anything over a kilo, you're going to be pretty competitive. But if they're 1.2s, then that X-Rap 6, it just got the big ones. Yeah.
Looking at the difference between your Sinclair win this time and your Sinclair win last time, when you were throwing top orders at shag trees and stuff like that, you've obviously got a really good eye for the conditions. Lake had recently risen up high.
Yeah.
How shallow were those fish there? It looked like they were getting in the shallow stuff.
Yeah, they were super shallow, and what we talked about before was I knew out in like 10 to 20 feet you could get a lot of fish on blades and chatterbaits. So anything that had any sort of vibration, I found that pretty early that you could get those fish to bite. But I was pushing way up shallow into that freshly flooded ground, and our local dams, BP and Boondoomba here, are the same. They've gone up to 100%, and all that new flooded grass and those little flooded shrubs, the bigger fish are definitely up there hunting insects or the little bait fish or whatever. But yeah, Sinclair, a lot of those fish were in 2 to 4 feet, nearly every one of them. And if it was a flooded shrub or a little bunch of shrubs, those big ones were in amongst it, and they were just waiting there to ambush anything that come past.
One of the cool things about the highlights was the fact that you had a few fish hook up, get stuck in some of those grass and shrubs, and I didn't see you lose any of those battles. You're going to win a tournament where the things that go into the nasty stuff just come back out again.
Yeah, that's the difference. Like you said before, sometimes you might get fish that are on one hook and they touch a piece of grass or a leaf on the top and they come off. But I think what I guess down there, I've just gone with the fact I used to think, they always say go light to get the bite, but I don't change any of my tackle from what I use up here. I stay 10 or 12 pound leaders, and my main line's normally always sort of between 9 and 12, depending on the reel I've got it on. But I still fish the same, fish it heavy. But yeah, not panicking is the big thing. In the past, sometimes you're rushing to get fish out, and when you got that heavier line on, you can seesaw them a little bit and basically wait for them to swim out. And yeah, I was lucky, I think 4 or 5 times in that Sinclair round that those fish just came out. And I mean, when that stuff happens, you things are looking good for you.
Let's fast forward now to Glenbourne. You'd be on a high from Sinclair, and how many % chance did you have of doing good at Glenbourne, according to you, after your pre-fish day? Did you get onto some stuff on the pre-fish and you thought, oh, here we go again, or did it just unfold?
Nah, it was weird. Glenbourne, obviously the talk from Glenbourne was that it was pretty tough. So I just wanted to find one lure or something that I could just follow and go with. And Nick Brown, I had him on pre-fish day. He had 5 or 6 rods, but I sat there at lunchtime one stage and I had 16 rods on the deck with 16 different lures on. And I think at about 10:30, I caught one fish gulping a tree. And then really late on the pre-fish day, I figured out a little bit of a pattern with these fish sitting in amongst the trees. Like I could get these fish to come out on these deeper trees, but not eat my lure. And then I got onto this blade bite to catch these fish. And when I throughout the day, I could see there was fish up shallower, but I just couldn't get them to bite. So I kind of had that blade deal worked out, on the deeper fish, and that was sort of later in the day. But it's good to have good mates, and I sat down and we all fairly well struggled. And at the end of the day, I was just like, let's just go fishing, fish your confidence, and see what happens. And instead of having 16 rods on the deck, I had 4 or 5 rods on the deck, but I just had 3 different jerk baits: a shallow, a medium, and a deep jerk bait. I had a big whopper plopper on, and I think I may have had a chatterbait on, and that's just what I did. I just went fishing, and I got a big one, jerk baiting early. Then I got one on top water. It was a 1.6, and same deal. When things go right for you, and they were all big fish, I I think 5 bites for the morning, but they were all 1 point. I had a 1.5, a 1.6, and another 1.2, and it's just how it works sometimes.
So coming in after that first day, did you weigh the bag and did you see the rest of the field just go like this?
Timmy Oakley or Coney. Actually, I pulled up next to Coney at the weigh-in the first on the Saturday, and he goes, "Did you get them good?" And I nodded to him. I said, "I think so." And he said, "Did you get them better than Sinclair good?" And I knew I had bigger fish than Sinclair, and I went, "Yeah." And then I weighed that 4 kilos, and Timmy Oakley just come down and just was shaking his head, and he said, "You're too good. I can't do it." But I didn't realise it was going to be that big of a bag, and then to have nearly a kilo lead was it was great.
Nothing wrong with having a kilo lead going into the second day, mate. That's it got tough on the second day for you.
Yeah, it was super tough. So I did the same thing. I still had the same setups going, and I guess the Sunday or the last day at Glenbourne was like really mentally challenging. But I think over time I've learned not to panic. I know that you can, being a 3 fish limit, I knew that I just had to get 3 bites and they just had to be 3 bass because I knew I had that bit of a buffer. But I think I said to Troy, he was my co-boater at that stage. I had 5 bass bites and I knew they were bass because they bit like a bass, they took off like a bass, and I landed 1 out of those 5. And again, I had that one that I did land. He got me in a tree, so I could have had 0. But at 11 o'clock, I had 1 fish. And then I said to Troy, I said, "I've got to throw these jerk baits away because by 11, I'd caught 1 bass and I caught 7 carp in a row."
Yeah.
So 11 o'clock, I just said, "Troy, I've got to go and do this deep blade deal. I know that I can catch fish doing it." And fell back on pre-fish and just went straight to the deeper trees through the blade. I got a bite first cast, and then I said, "Right, I'll just stick with that." And I caught a fish second cast. That had my 2. And then again, I got stuck in a bit of a rut for an hour, and it was at 1 o'clock. I had the 2, and then went to another point on my way back to the ramp, and I caught my 3rd fish. And I said to Troy, to catch those 3, I knew I had a pretty good chance. I didn't think I thought I'd actually let it go, but I did give Troy a hug to have those 3. But no, it was good, and I did by 1 o'clock when I had 2. That's when I really started to panic. I did get a bit stressed, but to catch that 3rd one, it was such a relief. It was good.
It was a decent check. I came back from Tassie. I wrote you a check for $9,000. I guarantee that made the missus happy.
Oh yeah, no, it was good. we were looking at going on holiday, so it was a good time to get a check like that. And I'm slowly just chipping away at Dane from the grand final from last year. So it's good. It's the money is it's good. It's a good bonus, but it's not every day you get a good check like that from a few days fishing.
I've got something here. I'm going to give you a look at. What does that say?
Yeah,
that's one from the Clarence. You've got 3 of these so far this year. How confident are you at the Clarence, mate? Joey Urquhart, you'll have shares in him soon.
I was talking to Coney the other day about, and actually Charles West rang too. I think a few years ago he won 5 out of 7 or 4 out of 7 or something.
Well, I think he won an AOY with 500 points out of 500.
Yeah, he got a perfect round. So it'd be nice to think I could try and do that, but who knows what's in store. I'll obviously be gunning for it, but I'd like to think that I could get 4 in a season, but that would be a dream come true. But anyway, I'll give it my best shot. There's a lot of good anglers out there, though.
And the Clarence, we did talk to Tony Thorley in preparation for this show. The mayor of Grafton, the unofficial mayor of Grafton, is on the show tonight, and he says it's going to fish pretty bloody good again.
Yeah. Look at last year. There's 7 kilo bags. You know, it's just they'll be. I think I pre-fished with Nick Brown last year, and we caught. I think in pre-fish I caught 2 or 3 fish over 2 kilos from a river. I just couldn't believe it. So if it's anything like last year, it's going to be a ripper. Mate,
thank you very much for joining us tonight. You know, Bass Fishing Royalty. Great to see the sponsor Karma kicking in. If there's anyone, you know, I'll put this hint in your mouth to tell people. Chuck a Rapala if you want to win some tournaments, eh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good choice. The BX Brad on the river too will be good. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for that, and thanks for joining us on ABT Live. We'll see you down the Clarence.
Thanks for having us.
So there you go, Matty Langford. He is in the zone, fishing a lot and catching a lot. Speaking of bass, the Bass Electric is on this weekend as well, up at Toonambar. We know it clashes with the Bass Pro Dates, but they are a very different set of people that do both of them. We've got, the guys, you can go there, you can fish 2 days, plenty of fishing there, plenty of fun camping to be had. Check out the website for the contact details, and you've still got time to pre-enter that one at Toonambar in northern New South Wales. Let's have a chat to the legend from Lonnie, Zane Wyatt. So Tassie 2022, how awesome was it? A whole lot of new people going to Tassie, a whole lot of new people doing well. Interestingly, it was a tournament. It was a place where not too many people did well in one event, and then the next event it all swapped around, and that's what Tassie's always like. I've got a man that I want to introduce you who's from Tassie, who I think would have won the Most Improved Award from the 2020 version of Tassie to 2022. Welcome, Zane Wyatt, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Morgo.
We met Zane back in 2020, and I actually properly met Zane right after my propeller incident where I'm driving up the Derwent, I hear a doink, and the blade of my propeller departs the prop, hits the cowling on the way up, and was last seen headed for the moon. This man, who happens to be a Mercury dealer from CJ Marine in Launceston, goes, I happen to have a really good prop in the back of my car, and he was good enough to lend it to me, and did I ever give it back?
No. There was money changed hands though, so it's fine.
And it happened to be, it was a Fury 4 prop from Mercury V8, and it would, at St Helens, I could do the turn and get up on the plane thing, and I could pop that boat up in about 1.5 foot of water. I was in love with that propeller. unfortunately, it only died recently in Moreton Bay. Just one day it came back with a 50-cent chunk out of the blade of it. But you have become known as a bit of the Mr. Fix-It when we go to the Apple Isle. That's got something to do with your marine dealership heritage, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess it's handy to have that skill set when you're hanging around that crowd. And yeah, like you say, it's my job. It's what I do on a daily basis. So I'm more than happy to be able to help, and that there is someone there that's capable to get people out of a sticky situation if needed.
Give us a laundry list. Don't have to talk about the people. Talk about the things you had to fix this year. Go through the list of stuff that. And ABT guys are fairly busting sort of guys. What do we break?
Yeah, what did I do this year? We had to help do a trolling motor swap on the Friday afternoon of the pre-fish at the Derwent. I think Saturday. Oh no, not Saturday. I get my days confused because they weren't weekend events. But yeah, end of day one at the Derwent. Wally had a problem with his motor trimming up on its own, and then it wouldn't go back down. So we sort of jump started the trim system in that and got that sorted for him. Had to do a prop change because someone had discovered a cracked prop on the ramp at St Helens. My own boat, I had a trolling motor battery explode within the first minute of day one at the Derwent, so I had to get in the back of that, and luckily the Garmin Force can go from 36 volt to 24 volt, and played with some wires and did a bit of shuffling around, and that got me going for the rest of the weekend. So yeah, had to use the brain not only with fishing but on the tools as well.
Let's have a chat about that. You did the ABT tours the first time we met you back in 2020, and hope you don't mind me mentioning, but failed to catch a limit for all 4 of the fishing days.
A very ordinary effort by me, but didn't know what to expect. I only had that's right, exactly. It's all part of learning, and I only did my very first brim comp ever in 2019. I had the memory pop up on Facebook the other day. So when I first did the Tassie Classics, and so prior to that, I think I might have caught my first brim on a lure maybe 12 months before that comp. So it is a steep learning curve. That's not as easy as people can make it look when you watch live streams from yourself or whatever. But I guess I haven't really changed much of what I do from 2 years ago to now. I think I just probably have a little bit more confidence that you don't get the whole overwhelming panic of I haven't caught a fish within the first 10 minutes or whatever it might be. So I guess I was more relaxed and just went into it and treated it as though I was going on a social fish. And this time round, and because I literally hadn't been fishing at all since Christmas time. So I just have not had time, haven't had a boat. The pre-fish day on Derwent was the first day fishing out of the new boat. So lots of stuff to learn with all those sounders and the new motor and what the live wells want to do and all that sort of stuff. So probably underprepared is what helped me the most, I reckon.
Mate, having that relaxed attitude really does. I speak to a lot of guys that are at the top of their game, and that ability to not panic is something which is a lot of guys play that as one of their strengths. You know, in the Derwent, you can get healthy in a hurry. You can have 4 hours catching no fish, and then by the 4 to 5th hour, you can have 5-6 kilos in the live well. So your Derwent results were awesome. You had 4.9 kilos on day one. I think you had 4.89 on day 2. Probably the most consistent 2 bags there, and that was good enough to get a second place. How did it feel to get your first ABT check? And in addition, that little novelty check for the highest place Mercury owner. Being a Mercury dealer, mate, you would have been going back into work just like, check me out.
It is on display in the office at work, I will admit. So I've got a visit from some Mercury guys later this week. So I'll make sure that they can see it when they walk in. But it was, the Derwent was a surprise. I think I caught 3 fish on pre-fish day. Really didn't fish that hard though, because my non-boater mate, Leighton Beer, he's a local down there. He'd done a bit of scouting around in the weeks prior, and we went out and he was whacking them and I wasn't, and I was thinking, oh, I'm in trouble here. But I guess I wasn't really focused on the job at hand or anything like that. So yeah, the Derwent day 1 and day 2 were different days for me, but caught fish in the same sort of ways. And I think also day 1 having Jared as my non-boater, he's such a casual dude and just has fun out there on the water, and we just had a fun day. And all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, I've got 5 in the well, and I think there was a bit of a high five because I was like, that's my first full bag in ABT. So yeah, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, and then once we'd done that, I had my 5 head, he's 3. We just went and cruised around and chased where we thought fish might be, and yeah, just had some fun for the rest of the day.
I loved from the highlights that on day 1, you learned from Jared how to fish the Gear Aquas, and then you took them back to what I affectionately call the pontoon death, and plucked another couple of giants off there on day 2 to help you to your second place. So that's exactly what ABT is all about. Just because you're a non-boater doesn't mean that you're no less than your boat. It's like, it's all about, you can always learn off someone. Like every non-boater I fish with, and I fish with some great non-boaters down in Tassie. Normally they flog me, but if not, I'm still learning off them, and it's great to see that you're on that pathway as well. Yeah, well, even flashback 2 years prior, I think day 2 at the Derwent, I had Jesse Roten as my non-boater, and he ended up winning the event. And he absolutely brained me off the back of the boat, and he's throwing plastics and vibes and stuff in areas that I just wouldn't have ever thought you would do it, and he's pulling fish after fish. And I know right at the end of that day, we pulled up near the Brim Reef out the front of Mona. And he said to me, like, I chucked out first cast, caught a fish, and he said to me afterwards, he said, when we pulled up here, I thought, what on earth are you doing here? And then I caught a fish, so he sort of stood up and paid attention, and then he just went silly and caught 4 or 5 on plastics, on the oysters, and I'm going, how on earth are you doing that? I tried to do it. Nah, got snagged, got busted off, whatever. But that, watching him go about his business and the way he did it, the jigs he used, and just the little finessey points of what he was doing, I tried to retain as much of that as I could. And then now over the past couple of years, I've been, every now and then when I get an opportunity, I try and put that into practice and use that. And I still don't rate myself as a plastics fisherman at all. I'm pretty useless at it. But yeah, those little things, I guess, stick with you, and you can learn so much of it through, like me being still inexperienced, against these guys that are really good at it. Yeah, that's probably my favourite part of it. That's good. It's ABT's motto is who shares wins, and you know our business model. We get people involved in tournament fishing from the back of the boat. They get sucked in. They want to be the boater at the front. They end up spending all the money with you to get a new Mercury and a new boat. So that's the business model, and it's worked. It even works on Mercury dealers, I see.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it got me. Yeah, it got me for sure. So
it's great to have Mercury as such a good sponsor of ABT. I can't actually remember a time when Mercury wasn't a sponsor of ABT, and the fact that they just kick in that little bit of extra cash each event, it's only a few $100, but it respects the fact that you bought a Mercury and rewards anyone who's bought a Mercury and performed well with a bit of cash. Man, they have like 60, 70, 80% market share at a lot of our events, and that's virtually double what the market share is in the normal climate. Did you notice that as a dealer?
I did, yeah. It's nice to see all the shiny black ones there each morning and each night, and it's good that us as tournament anglers, ABT people, we then in turn sort of notice that little bit of commitment they've given to the series and all that sort of stuff. We return the favour from them looking after us. I don't know. I guess they're the ones really making the money out of it. But I as a dealer love seeing that. Every time I'm driving around anywhere, you see a boat getting towed, you're like, "Oh, what's on the back of it?" I don't know what the boat is. I didn't even look at that, but I'm worried about what's on the back. So, it's really awesome to see that much market share and sponsorship and loyalty both ways for the series.
Are you surprised at how quickly the ABT anglers have taken up the new V6 and V8 product? Like, I remember the first year it came out, there was like 4 or 5 bang bang straight away on the tour, and I thought, oh, that's good. You know, the early adopters have got them, and maybe in 5 years' time we might see some more of them here. Man, there's a lot of new V6 and V8 Mercs kicking around, aren't there?
There are, yeah. They, I think the mentality of people has changed, and they've woken up to the fact that this new 4-stroke product is actually more powerful than the 2-stroke it replaced. 20 years ago, they were just big, heavy lumps that no one wanted.
Yeah.
My old boat, I did that. I went Optimax 4-stroke back to Optimax. Being a dealer, you sell engines when you can, sort of thing. So, yeah. And when I went from 4-stroke back to Optimax, the first day fishing, myself and my mate that I normally do the Tassie Classics with, we both said, why have you done that? Like, listen to that noisy thing. And the power of them is phenomenal. They're just as fast. They are awesome on fuel. They're just, you can't beat having them, really.
No, it's great. And it's great to see, as I say, Mercury supporting it with the bonus program. The boats we're giving away at the end of this year are going to be the Alloy Craft boats again. They'll have the black ones on the back again, a couple of Mercuries on the back of those things. So a big thanks to AB and the guys from Merc for doing that, but also committing long term. Like we have sponsors that come and go in ABT, but Merc have been there for the long haul, and great to see them getting supported. I know it's 2 years until we come back to Tassie again. It's the first time we came to Tassie, you had a little flash bass boat. This time we came to Tassie, you had a big flash bass boat. Wonder what it's going to be like in 2 years now that you've got to take it.
I think if I buy another boat within the next 2 years, I might not be alive to fish. So I think the one I've got now may have to do the job for a little while. But I don't feel a need to replace it either. I've only had the ABT comps really in it to use it in anger, but man, it's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
Let's say now, of course, you'll get a 6-year warranty on that motor anyway. So I'm sure you'll be selling it after 5.5 years. You might be swapping it over to a new one. Dropped in, you guys. Yeah, hey, I was one of the guys you helped down there. You put a new spring in my trailer when we were.
And I wasn't even there. I had to go to the Big Island for a wedding, so I wasn't even there to make you a coffee and watch the boys do the work.
But it was no, your guys did a great job there. Give us a little bit of a like your dealership. When I say it's in Launceston, it's a bit north of Launceston, isn't it? Give us a bit of a rundown about CJ Marine.
Yeah, so CJ Marine started in 1979. My dad started it on his own. CJ, his initials. So he started it in 1979. He was a Suzuki dealer for, I think, about 18 years. And then they pulled out of the outboard market in Australia or globally. Then he picked up Mariner. It's had a few site locations in its time. Started humble beginnings in the parents' double garage at home. He's been big, he's been small. So he dad retired I think 4 years ago now, a bit over 4 years ago. So I've been there for about 13 with him. I didn't do my apprenticeship with him because straight out of school I reckon we probably would have clashed a bit. So it was best for me to go off into the real world and have to work with complete strangers and all that sort of stuff, and then I could go back and work alongside with Dad. And we've always had a really good relationship, and it's been awesome to be able to continue on with the business. It's been, like I say, it's been around for over 40 years. There's been a lot of marine dealerships in the Launceston area come and go in that time. Currently we're in Lagana, which is only 10 minutes north of Launceston. And been there for about 20 years roughly. It's been my childhood. I remember Dad's old work. I had my own office out there in the school holidays, and I'd go to work with him and all that sort of stuff. So I've been playing with outboards since I could walk pretty much. Not customer ones, obviously, back then, but a bit of child labour. So the business has been going for that long, and now I've got a couple of staff with me as well. So I'm not on the tools as much, but still able to be hands-on and oversee what's going on. and get in the trenches with them when needed. So yeah, it's good. It's just a good little family business, and that's how we like it.
And of course, if there's anyone in Tasmania that decides, I need a repower of my boat, doesn't matter what brand's on the back of it, you can make sure they end up with a black one on the back, and it'll be schmigaz.
That's the plan. That's what we hope to do.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for helping everyone in Tassie, all the mainlanders that you helped out, me included. We really appreciated it. And we just already got the countdown ready for next time we get down to the Apple Isle and tank with those big brim and the great locals. So thanks for joining us tonight.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me. And 2 years won't go fast enough.
So that's it for tonight. I hope you're having a great Easter weekend. I know we are all spread far and wide across this country. Make sure you drive safe getting home at the end of it. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Remember, if you haven't entered the competitions yet, let us know where you're from or what part of Australia you're holidaying at Easter from. Put it down below. Nicole is just about to draw the winners of those competitions. We're going to get this stuff in the mail to you during the week. Until next time, thank you very much, Nicole, for helping with the back end, putting all this stuff together. I just jump in the front and do the easy stuff at the end. Travel safe to Grafton, travel safe to WA. We look forward to catching up with you in a future show or an ABT event down the track.